Yeah, so Tatari specifically focuses on outcomes in TV. And so as far as the way we're thinking about measurement, it's mostly about efficiency. Brands that are running a lot of other channels such as social, search engine marketing, email, and have really hit a point of diminishing returns, need to expand outside of those channels to get incremental reach and to also drive performance as far as sales. And so Tatari brings that to the forefront for those types of brands.
Are there any major shifts you're seeing in terms of how buys are being executed, whether in-house versus managed?
Yeah, so a funny thing is in the last year or so, Tatari's seen a pretty evident shift from brands wanting to have just solely a managed service offering as far as both performance measurement as well as execution and strategy to actually bringing that in-house. We started with one brand about a year and a half ago beta testing an in-house offering where the brand's actually controlling both linear and streaming buys, hands on keyboard. We now have about 40 or so brands that are doing that, and it's not just D2C brands, which is really where we started. It's now moving into the more upper echelon brands that are moving into the upfronts and brands that are moving over to consolidate both linear and streaming measurement on an outcome-specific basis. So it's interesting.
When it comes to performance television, how are brands balancing direct versus programmatic?
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. So in terms of the way brands are balancing programmatic with direct, Tatari started actually mostly on the direct. And as things have evolved in the performance space, brands invariably want to get into things like site retargeting off of CTV, looking at particular performance metrics, not only in direct buys, but layering in first-party data, third-party data, and understanding if that can also be an efficiency channel for them. Sort of two things at play there that I think the industry is still evolving with. One is pricing. Programmatic obviously has its additional fees that you're going to be looking at through the supply chain. And so we're looking at Tataria working with publishers on a unique basis to figure out how we unlock more efficient pricing for brands that are looking at outcomes. The other that I'm sure has been talked about here at the conference is just the content signals and the transparency of signals that you can get in streaming. Ironically, is still far below what a brand or a buyer can get in linear, where on linear brands can look to optimize on things like the rotation or the actual show, where we're still a ways away from that on the streaming side, and most of that needs to get activated programmatically. So we're working with publishers to try to unlock that. A lot of the SSPs, like an Index Exchange or others that can do that.
What's holding back more programmatic activations, if anything?
Yeah, again, I mean, I'm looking at it from Tatari's perspective. Some of the things holding back kind of programmatic activation really would be that transparency in terms of data signal in the bid stream, right? What particular genre am I running on? What particular show, right? If I'm running on Hulu, what are the particular shows that are performing well for me so I can then optimize or strategically plan a bit deeper on that particular information. And so right now, I'd say we're still in the early innings of that. It's sort of a black box in streaming, but I think the industry can get there, and we can, make strides to activate that for our brands.
Are there any trends you're seeing in terms of the types of brands moving to more outcome-focused TV buying?
Yeah, so in the earlier days for Tatari, some of the trends we were seeing was growth brands who are hitting that point of diminishing returns, as I mentioned, and wanting to scale beyond with incremental reach that TV brings, whether it's, again, linear or streaming television. But what we've started to see, particularly as we've moved brands in-house, is also agencies moving that direction as well. Agencies that want to consolidate linear and programmatic and streaming direct buys into a single platform. And Tatari activates that for our brands, and obviously we work with our publishers to provide that offer.
Finally, any trends you're picking up here at IAB that you're taking home to your company and trying to make sense of?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one we want to understand is measurement, right? How is that going to evolve in the space? Everybody talks about currency versus activation. How will that shake out? Tatari plays particularly in sort of the outcome space, but it'll be really interesting trends to follow and watch on how that evolves as sort of the industry comes together to have some standardization around measurement.